If you had a microscope and could look at a piece of a leaf, you would see thousands of tiny openings which branch out until the leaf has all of the materials it needs. What happens now?
Okay, this is awesome. You don't really even know anything about After Effects, but you've already created your first animation, right? So let's take it to the next level. And how do we do that? Let's do it by messing around, okay? And what I mean by this is, let's just jump back into After Effects, into the 25 Steps project, and just play with it, all right? Play is such an important part of being creative, and it's really easy to forget that when we're trying to learn something technical like new software. But let's not lose sight of play, okay? So let's jump into After Effects and check out how we can maybe change some of this around, all right? So things that you could change around are like the shapes, for example. We could try, a diamond instead of a circle here, or a star, or a polygon, or any shape really. We could also try changing the colors. We could even try animating the colors, which I don't think we went into at all. But if you click, for example, on circle 2, which is this one right here, and you press UU, like real quick, like UU, right? You will see all of the properties that were changed at any point in this, right? Which probably includes the color. So what you could do is, for example, here at the beginning, you could find this under ellipse, there's the fill color, and there's a stopwatch there that you can click on to make a new keyframe. So if you click on that at the first frame, for example, at 0000, and then we move to the end of the animation, and then you change this value to something different, like the color, I guess I should say, not the value, I don't know, just something like bright green, and then click on that. Now you'll be creating an animation where that changes. Let's check that out. Right? So that's sort of interesting. And the colors I chose were kind of similar, but obviously the change would be greater if you went with something like really shockingly different, I suppose. I would just say watch out for the contrast with the background, because at a certain point in here, it gets like, if you kind of squint at this, it's almost like the same luminance or, black and white value, whatever. So what else can you change? You can... All right, so you could, for example, you could do what we did in the lecture, but just add more copies of these circles, right? So what we did is we selected the first one, we duplicated it, and then we rolled the values up. So let's take both of these and duplicate these, okay? And I'm going to move circle 3 and 4 on top, and I'll press R to reveal the rotation property again. And now see, this starts at 0 and this starts at 180 because it's kind of mirroring these two, right? Which start at 0 and 180. But if we take all of these keyframes and we're on a keyframe, right? In this case, the first keyframe. What I need to do is roll this rotation value up to 90, and all of the keyframes will adjust that I've got selected. So I'll roll this up to 90, like there. Click. Okay, you see this one went up to 270. And now, just for a sec, we have 0 and 90 and 180 and 270 in terms of all the rotation at the start. So now it looks like this, right? And two of them still have the animation of the color shift in them, which is a little bit distracting. If you want to take that off, you could always select all and press U again. And here are the color change. You can kind of see it puts this little thing in here. So you could take that off if you want to delete that color and delete that color. Now it would look like this, right? And I mean, you could keep doing this, I suppose. You could take like all of them and duplicate them, move that up to the top, right? And with all those highlighted, press R. And now you could go back to the beginning, select all of these, and now try to find even a new place that kind of splits the difference and move this to like 45, just say, this first value. And then you'll know it's like they're all kind of right in between. And now check that out. Right? Now we've made like kind of a rotating circle, sort of a little reminds me of the EU flag or something. Right? So that's kind of cool. And you could always change like every other color here, just say like all the odd ones and pick like a different color, and maybe the odd ones wasn't such a good choice. I'm going to cancel that and let's figure this out actually. So what I really want is every other one. So I'm holding down on Shift. And those are the ones. Okay, so actually what I wanted were the top new ones that I selected, which makes sense. So if I click in here and I can change the color and, do that. Woo! And of course I could, some of those are, I think, animating the color. Is that right? Let's press U. Yep, oops, teacher error. So I had to animate that color because I already had a keyframe on there. So I apologize for that confusion. So I've delete the yellow color value keyframes there. Now they will stay like this, right? So that's one thing you could do. And of course you could always, I'm going to select all and collapse this down, go back to the beginning. You could always, like, I don't know, make new shapes to throw in here, like a polygon shape or something. And maybe instead of a fill, you could take the fill off and just make that like a stroke or something. I don't know. And you could press the quote button to reveal the title action safety, which gives you a nice center point here. And then if I move in on the center, I can kind of shift and command and make my pentagon in this case. And shift makes it a perfect shape, and command means that I'm scaling it up from the center. Sorry about all these Mac commands. It must be like control probably for PC people. So now, like with this here, I could, for example, like while everything else is rotating around, I could have this rotate at a different rate to create some like contrast of the rotation, right? So I could press R to reveal the rotation here and make a keyframe at the beginning and then go to the end here and making sure I'm lined up with my other keyframes. Yep. And now, for example, I could have this rotate just one whole rotation, right? And so now that will rotate a little bit slower while the other things rotate faster, right? And so it seems to be like kind of passing through. And for example, you could even have this scale in the other way. I could hit S to reveal the scale and click on the stopwatch and go here in the future and make this like bigger. And now you've got this kind of counter rotation and scale thing where, well, really counter scale, where one's getting bigger and the other set's getting smaller, right? So there's quite a lot you can do here. You could even, let's see, you can, you could create like a shifting colored background pretty easily. If I turn off my solid and I create a shape layer, that's a rectangle, right? And I get in here and I make sure that this is covering the entire screen. Whoops, I'm creating a mask by accident. Deselect all your other layers, teacher error, part 2, right? And now you can get up in here with everything deselected and draw a shape around the entire comp. In this case, I have the stroke on and not the fill, so I'd have to turn this down to 0 and then create a fill color for this. Something that's not too obnoxious, hopefully. Though I always seem to wind up with these pretty obnoxious colors, right? So, I don't know, I think this was in the kind of cyan family here, something like this. So now, this now is on top. If I move this down to the bottom, what I can do is get into the contents of my rectangle here and to my fill color, right? Which is here. And of course, there's a stopwatch there to press and animate too. So if I click that stopwatch, I make a new fill color keyframe. And now I can go ahead to the end, for example, and I don't know, I could change this and make this lighter or darker, or change the value, make it bluer, right? Something like that. I don't know what that's going to look like, but let's check it out. Right? So yeah. So there's just like an endless amount of playing around and messing around that you could do with this kind of thing. And just try a bunch of different things out. And you know what else you could do is change the keyframe timings of a bunch of stuff. So if I select all and I press U and then U again, so here's all my keyframes. What I can do is like, I don't know, just try messing around. What if you just like move some of them and change some of them and make them slower and faster? What does that look like? Well, not so great, okay? But at least you tried something, right? I'm gonna hit undo. And, go ahead and do that. And just like, what happens if I, make this whole thing faster? Does it look better or does it look like crazy, right? You'll find that with rotation, sometimes when things rotate too much in too short of a period of time, it actually could even look like it's not rotating or even rotating backwards, which could be kind of cool, right? So go ahead and just play around and get comfortable in After Effects and see what you can do. And if you want, try putting some effects on, although that's kind of advanced. So if you're feeling advanced, try that. And otherwise, just play around with these shape layers and the colors and have a good time with this, okay? So just go ahead and play and mess around with it and make mistakes. That's really important at this stage. And if you do find that you're confused about anything, post those questions to the Facebook group, and I'm sure that either me or one of the TAs will be able to answer them for you, all right? Making mistakes is part of this, and so is just playing around and having fun, okay? When you're done, post the results to the Homework Locker and to the Facebook group, and I'm sure we'll all have a really good time checking out what you guys are doing and oohing and ahhing over all the awesome choices that you've made.
If you had a microscope and could look at a piece of a leaf, you would see thousands of tiny openings which branch out until the leaf has all of the materials it needs. What happens now?